Everybody. Welcome to Midwest Elevation. It is our Tuesday weekly series, the Conversations to Raise the Collective Conscious, which I was just having a little trouble spelling there just a minute ago. That's okay. It happens. I hope you are all having a wonderful start to the new year. Hard to believe we are already 5 days into January of 2021, but I'm excited to be here despite all the snow that we have here in the Midwest. That's just a thing, right? We get snow here, and that happens. And even though I question it every winter, why do I live here? I love it. I love it. But we're not here to talk about snow today. No, we are not. We are here to talk about connecting to our creativity and the healing effects of art. And we are here today with Martha, aka Marti Pineno. Did I say that right? Pineno. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest, and I'm so excited to be talking with her today. She is an award-winning, multi-talented artist, musician, entrepreneur. She blends a unique background in education, art, and music. You can see why we got connected. These are things we are both passionate about. To inspire her students and clients with out-of-the-box strategies so they can discover their unique and highest potential. I love that. Marti developed a transformational program, Masterpiece to Masterpiece, beautiful, that guides her clients with ARTivities to explore their innate creativity so they can feel free to express themselves fully. She is committed to helping women who struggle with isolation, anxiety, and grief to restore their voice, regain a vision to see their true worth so they can finally experience a journey of joy through peace, purpose, and prosperity. That is amazing, beautiful work. I'm so grateful that you are here.
I'm tearing up just hearing that. Oh my gosh.
That's you. That's your work. This is amazing. And you know, this is our work, right? We care about this stuff so much because we go through it ourselves, right? Right? So, and finding our true voice and helping others live their most, live their passions, their authentic selves, and overcoming, major obstacles through art and creativity by tapping into that is just magical. And so welcome. I'm so glad you are here with us today to have this chat.
Appreciate it. Oh my gosh, just preparing, just thinking about being here, just thinking, what do you say, when you have to explain what is people, so creativity, just the thought of that word, and I'd vacillate between how to present it. That word seems so big and ominous almost, as the creator. And even the word masterpiece is such a huge, almost responsibility, but I'm trying to make it seem a little more approachable. Okay, in that each one of us is a masterpiece. And it's not even about, the fact that it's like the works behind us or the things that we've composed, the paintings that we've done. It's the moment we're born, are a masterpiece. And then everything happens after that.
Right. Everything happens. The minute we're born, we are a masterpiece.
The moment. It's like this big boom, Yeah, a world explosion. Yeah, there it is. And then we're born into this world of, and we're here in this new decade now. This new moment, this new year, and that's the next significance. Those of us who are here, they're speaking one-on-one. We've survived something that has never happened in over a century. Right. And the things that I've noticed over the years when working with my clients is how the arts, art, music, writing, those were the things that always connected us. And my experience in education certainly helped. Okay, working with hundreds and hundreds of students a week of all ages. It's when I started when I left from an institutional situation of a public school and said, this is not resonating with me in the same way. I feel like my impact isn't as much, even though it was hundreds of people. I wanted to work.
I'm going to pause you right there. Sorry, your mic is cutting out just a little bit. I'm getting some.
Okay.
Hi, Tanya. Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah, thank you. How is it? Should I hold it?
Well, if it's a little bit closer, that would be great. Yeah.
How's that? Yeah. Well, maybe there was nothing I said previous that you needed to hear.
It keeps cutting in and out. Your sound is actually good. Oh, much better. Tanya says much better. Okay, great.
So how about if I'm slowing my speech, but maybe if I just sit still.
Yeah.
That's a tricky one for me. I am going to sit still. Yeah. I feel I got along quite well with the youth, a little antsy and and energy because I'm like, I relate to that, So I'll try to sit as still as I can to speak. And then I tend to speak softly. No big sticks here, softly, okay? So I'm going to just keep it in my natural voice. If you need more volume, let me know, and I'll increase the volume.
Oh, that's great.
Acoustically. So that's what I know.
And thank you, Maria, for being here too. Everybody loves the masterpiece, right? Each one of us is a masterpiece.
I'm so glad. The curious thing about that is that I had designed that program. I was working on it 5 years ago, and here it is. It's finally coming to fruition.
That's beautiful.
So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled with the response on that. So you indicated through all that the beginning there what I'm trying to do. Okay, I can't do it without somebody on the other side. Through my Facebook group, I'm just introducing myself and just being comfortable with people so they can get to know me. Since I'm not young, I'm a little older, I have different experiences than other people and different methods and ways that I speak, which may need to be accustomed to. All right. I'm also from the East Coast, so that also affects things. My understandings of life and how things fit in the world is from being the East Coast in the U.S. And that's my training and my knowledge. The art training, what I discovered over the years when I would have students, mostly one-on-one in small groups, is that they would come to me looking to learn how to draw or to paint, and they would sign up for lessons. But within a short amount of time, it seemed like they felt very comfortable sharing personal information as they felt safer with me, and they could trust me. Now, after 2 years, they kept signing up, okay? And this was like one week at a time. Well, then there were students that were there 6 years. And then there was 10 years. And I had students that year after year kept signing up until I had one that was like 12 years. And I thought, my goodness, they're like 25. They started at 12 and they're 24. Are they ever going to and I would watch them grow. But it was through the art that they grew. But it's the things that they would come and they would talk about in between. I would have a student that started studying, and it would be a lot of things that would be about grief. That's what I know. It's like an adult, some of the adult students. One student came to me after her father had died, and she always wanted to learn how to draw. She had never known how to draw before then. And then she would stay for a while, and then maybe finances would change, and she'd change. Which then she'd go to her counselor, counseling thing, you get stuff. Then she'd come back to me, and she would say, "Oh, wow, this is like better than counseling." And I'd say, "Well, that'll be $120 an hour." Okay. And we joke about it. But there was that connection. And then there was another, just on and on. It was like that. A student would want to take art because they thought they were going to go into that for their career. But as it turned out, they learned the art. They kept coming. The parents felt safe with them being with me. I helped them, guide them with things that their parents might say to help them understand what it's like going through in school. And they'd bring them back, and it was through art. They ended up being a history teacher, but she's still today using art to connect with her students. The healing aspect of it starts off like that. And that's where I found out that people talk about you must have been born that way, it was your gift. And I never felt it was that. That was never I felt was my gift. Contrary to what people think, that you're born that way.
Right.
No.
Oh, you work hard at it, right? I mean, it's a talent, and everybody has that innate creativity piece to them, and it doesn't have to be, the masterpiece, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be your livelihood or your $1 million work. It's the process, as you were saying.
It's the process. So that's what I found out happened in the art. So what would happen is somebody would come and they would learn how to draw. And then I would have these little epiphanies, and they would get so concerned about making mistakes. Like, well, you know what? You're going to make mistakes. And we have this blank piece of paper that we see, and there's like nothing on it. Everything starts off with this blank piece of paper. And then what do we put on that? Well, these are just tools, a pencil, a pen, a paintbrush. They're just tools. It all comes from inside, and then it has to move out through us. So one of the epiphanies that I had recently, as I was working through some pain in my past, note that the word, and I'm like, well, this seems so simple. The note that the word paint has the word pain in it. I'm like, oh my God, it's so obvious. But can you imagine? I'm like, I'm gonna be like 62. I'm like, duh. I just saw it has the word pain in it. Okay. It also has the word ain't in there. It ain't no pain in there. And I'm a very good grammar. I'm like a grammar Nazi, but I'm like, okay. So I speak proper grammar. But so it's got that word, but we cross it out. We're crossing it out. So the T crosses it out, the pain. But what I found out is through the process of painting, not the end result, the actual action of taking it from our hand would come up through our heart, up through our head, and then back down. We'd think about it, come down through our head, down through our heart, and go out through our fingers and our hand. Just holding a tool. So simplistic, seems to be healing. You can think about it all you want to. That works. I work on things that are just mental images for people to change the vision that we have in our head. Picturing things, listening to things, watching things. In fact, I would find that sometimes when I was working with clients and students, we would barely get any drawing done. And yet they left and came back again and came back. So even they recognized that it wasn't that they ended up with something on the piece of paper that they could see. It was talking about it, speaking about it, making a decision, saying yes to what their idea was, trying something new, changing things. So here's this pencil. Here's one of my other epiphanies. They have this little tiny eraser here. And everybody's worried about making mistakes. And we try so hard to erase the past of things that didn't go well. And we keep focusing on fixing it, erasing it. So what we need is flip it around and say, we have this much that's active, that can be done. We need to spend less time thinking about erasing it and more time about creating it.
Oh, that is brilliant.
And it's like, and I had that epiphany. I'm like, it's just like, seems so simple. It's like, oh my gosh, it's not about the erasing it. We have to think about all that's here extended to create it. And that's what happened in my process of painting. In fact, behind me, I had this painting that I did where there was a cruel thing that happened. And there's this painting here. By me painting over it, I don't feel the pain anymore. It's still there. It exists behind there. It's still there. It's behind there. But I layered on top of it. Instead of trying so hard for a decade to erase it, I put something on top of it. I extend it from trying to get rid of it to putting something there, and now I can build onto that.
Oh, I love it.
Create something new from it.
Something new, exactly, that has more meaning and more,
Yeah, that was just powerful. I mean, like I think, how could that seem so simple? But it's a process. It was a process. So these are some processes that I've learned over the years that really help. And I realized that that's what I got from my students, that it wasn't about the product. And that, so that's the process I work through. Okay. So I take elements like line, shape, and color, and then I focus on the healing aspect that people need. And they need healing. They need healing in their thought process. They need healing of their heart. They need healing of their body. So I take these basic elements like line, and I reference them to things that they can understand. Like line doesn't fit. Things don't fit in a straight line. Sometimes you run into the wall because you couldn't get through the door because you didn't perceive that your body could, so it goes in a spiral, or it's a zigzag. It might go in a diagonal. Okay, then I look at, so it doesn't fit in a box. People use these terminology, well, it doesn't fit in the box, out of the box. So we just get rid of the box, or we make a box. You either make a box and you try to fit it in, or you create a new box. And for me, my box has been this open-ended thinking, the possibilities. I'm like, why are you trying to always stuff me in this box? And I could never fit in. So I found that a lot of my clients and students were people that kind of felt like misfits. They didn't fit in.
Yeah.
And I would even have parents who would apologize for a young boy who came to me for art, and he said, "Well, I'm sorry, we tried soccer, we tried, hockey, and he just couldn't do it." I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And this, and they would, I'm like, "That's because he's a quiet, introspective person, And then all of a sudden, they gave him a chance. This little misfit who didn't fit in the way everybody else was working, and then he blossomed.
That's beautiful.
Okay. I know. It was just incredible. I love that. But they gave me a chance to help them. So the painting over the pain is a healing process. The drawing in of the piece is very important to bring it into us.
Yeah, the drawing in. And I love that. The word, I mean, right?
These are things that we say. These are everyday expressions. Color, we say words like blue. I feel blue. Well, why is that? So all these, green with envy. So I use words that we can work through. Our language is filled with things. Even the concept, it's black and white. The concept, it's black and white. And we say this is, when you say something is black and white, actually that means that it's perfect, because it's in black and white. It's reached its level of perfection because it has both in level of, it's in level with both. Okay. And then we talk about graying things. So it's a gray area. Well, it's a gray area because everything is grayed in between. So there's the word value. The word value in art is a lightness and darkness. So all those things are, and it's like, oh, that makes sense, but I'm using it through art. Perspective. Well, what's your perspective on that? Well, I maybe take the concepts of far and close and the perspective, but I'll incorporate it into the thought process of, well, what's your perspective on that? How can you change your thinking on that? So if you look at that and that's not real, like if I'm trying to make something look real, I could teach somebody how to draw anything real. It's the perspective, but I have to train. It's more their brain than their eyes, because I can train. If somebody was colorblind, I've taught them how to paint. Okay. I've taught people who never knew how to draw. So it wasn't that they couldn't see. It wasn't that they couldn't hold a pencil.
Right. Right.
Because people can create things by holding something in their toes. We've seen examples by their mouth. So it's not that, it's a desire, a need, or a want to create something. So the healing process is, I'm just like thrilled about the fact that it's morphed into that, from just the skill to this. And we need it so much right now.
So much.
Oh my God.
Well, and I think we'll find too, at least I have with, many of my friends and colleagues and, in the general circle, that, the whole shutdown, right? We've had, when suddenly the world outside is kind of closed off to us, and we don't and we are not being inundated with, the busyness of life. Life is still busy, it's just different now, but
Mm-hmm.
there's more time, it feels, to
Mm-hmm.
be able to spend with your creativity and
Mm-hmm.
expression, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's, I hope that
What,
it's
what, hap-
that it's
yeah.
helping people through this
Well,
time.
they've had to reach for something that they haven't, because we've been connected with technology or being busy. And here we are in isolation. What are we going to do? You have four walls, and you've got one door. Well, now let's figure out how you're going to decorate. So people actually started to, you've seen it happen. Like, well, I have a friend who would never claim she was going to do art. She ended up painting something on her wall. She's, wow, that was really, that really felt good. I'm thinking, isn't that it? She's never painted in her life,
That's
but
amazing.
she's just coming to my class, my groups, and she's just observing, and she says, wow, I did it. I said, that's awesome. You just took a brush and you did on your wall something she's never done before, just changing a color from gray to tan. That way, it just, I said, well, I know, it doesn't, it seemed, he held the brush, changed the color, changed her perspective, changed how she felt by that.
That's
But people in
amazing.
isolation, well, they started to learn how to play instruments. They started to paint. They started to write. They started to connect in ways that they haven't before. Because what else are you going to do? Because you can't get near each other.
Right.
What else are you going to do?
It's
Okay.
true.
So
It's
we've had, that's the amazing resiliency of the human being,
true.
that we'll figure it out. And part of it, it's been dealing with the grief that we've had through that.
Absolutely.
So I've always been in one to acknowledge mental health. And it's taken, I've actually waited many, many years, decades, for it to get to this point. I don't would hate to mention that, but when I was like 19, I said, boy, the world is really behind on this.
Yes.
It still is. And here it
Right.
is.
Right.
And finally, actually, the governor of my state actually mentioned just a couple months ago how important it was, not just the physical health, but the mental health. And I was very proud of that moment. I'm like, thank you for acknowledging that,
Mm-hmm.
because we tend to just shove that under the
It's true.
not knowing that if you don't have your mental health and feel good about that, it will manifest itself physically.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You mentioned a group. I want to make sure that our listeners out there know that you have a Facebook group that you run and you do some activities through, or I've seen you do some.
Yeah, I have a couple main ones. As this is a newer process for me in the online, because I used to work individually with people and
Mhm.
face to face. So I
Mhm.
have the group called Connect with Creativity.
I love
Always
that.
subject to change.
Of course. Isn't
Subject to
everything?
change.
If there's
I know. I'm like,
anything we've learned, right?
yeah. I'm like,
Nothing
but I
is
say,
forever.
change your colors, change your clothes, change your socks,
Right.
change your name. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Connect through. I just
Connect,
started writing it down.
connect with creativity. So it's like Facebook dot slash groups
Yeah.
slash connect
We'll
with
find
creativity.
it. We'll get that link in the
I
comments.
know, I appreciate that. And you provided the Mandela um activity,
Hmm.
the little
I'm
things
gonna put
about.
those links
Okay.
also in the once we're done here.
Okay.
Um, yeah. Oh, so Tanya English is one of our listeners right now.
Who's asking questions?
She just said, the healths are not separate. Exactly. She's just agreeing with you, right? All the healths, all the things, the mental health, the physical health,
Yeah.
and Tanya is amazing. She's a musician too.
Hmm.
She does, and an energy healer. So
Hmm.
she's right there with you. I think you guys would have a wonderful conversation, actually.
Oh, I can't. We would. Yeah. So I'm just looking through my notes here just to make sure that that's basically what I wanted to cover in this short time.
Absolutely.
Just to make mention of that. So I do work with one-on-one mostly, and then it's small groups is through the Facebook group, just to present ARTivities. I call them ARTivities.
I love that.
The difference between an activity and an ARTivity. An activity is tends to be is the doing, and the physical thing, whereas the ARTivity is more of the mental and the thought process.
I love it.
So
I
so
love it.
I'm not going to teach you how to dance. Okay, I have rhythm. Okay. Great rhythm,
That's
great
awesome.
pitch, but I'm not going to teach how to dance. So there's always somebody else who can help you with that. But so it's through the changing of the thought process, through the visual and the auditory, and that's what it's about.
That's
And
beautiful.
I'm hoping that I can reach more people in this new year
Yeah.
as I come out of and let me see, as you have drawn me into your circle of amazement in the Midwest.
Yes, yes. Where are you located? I don't think I asked
Actually,
you.
well, I'm actually in Ohio. I was a resident of Pennsylvania for 50 some years and had to make a change
Yes,
and
yes.
ended up in Ohio. And amazing how the difference between across an invisible line, how culturally things are different. I
Yes,
mean, like, you think this is like,
I know.
whoa, it's just like across a little, like this river across this river.
Yeah, you're not far from the
Oh
east.
no, I'm just like 4 hours from my hometown and like 6 hours, here's Philadelphia, there's Pittsburgh's down there. And here I'm this Ohio. I'm like, whoa, but I liked it because it was a 4-letter word that I could say and not get in trouble.
Right.
I'm like, because when you're in trauma, sometimes you say things that are like,
Yeah.
that are probably not the best things.
Oh, I
I would
hear
get in
you.
trouble, for
I hear
lake and swan and duck and
you.
things
Right.
like that.
I'm gonna have to remember that there are
So
other
that
four-letter words. This is
I
very
know, I know.
helpful
I
for
really
me.
actually did. I did a blog once about that little little post on them. Like, hmm, hmm. Let me hope there are actually hope and help.
Hmm. Yeah, see, it's all about perspective,
It
Marty.
is.
It's
It's all about
all
and
about
just
perspective.
thinking about it a little bit differently and controlling, a little bit of control and just um, guiding it in. So that's what I do. I guide people in to change that perspective and what they see,
I
what
love
they
it.
hear, and how they feel about it. And
Hmm.
that's the simplicity of it.
It is. It's so simple, and yet, and yet,
It's so hard because, oh my gosh, because we get caught up in these feelings that just overwhelm us.
it's true.
They just
It's
overwhelm
true.
us and we can't figure out how to get out of it. So so I have simple things like pick up the pencil and just keep it in front of you and just doodle. If all you do is doodle,
Right.
doodle and just scribble things on, somehow that releases a little bit at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And so different mediums like clay is just a powerful medium. So
Yeah.
in my hope is that one of the activities that I can introduce people to is working with the tactile, the
Mm-hmm.
three-dimensional,
Mm-hmm.
building that way too.
That's huge.
So
That's huge.
the piece of paper, a piece of paper, is that P-I-E or P-E, piece of paper. You know what I mean? It's piece of paper,
Yeah.
P-A-C of paper, piece. Okay.
I love it. I love these connections that you are making between the words, the colors, the feelings, the beauty, the horror, the all of it. It is
Yeah.
so beautiful, and how lucky are we that you are here and offering yourself, your work, your insight, your own transformation as a guide and a
Yeah.
support to others who need that as well. So really grateful that you are here. It's so
Let's
beautiful.
go like this. Let's like do like this.
Yes, yes.
And I
Mm.
said I don't tend to breathe. I kind of like just keep holding it in a lot.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a lot of people I've noticed in some of the courses and healers are off into the breath thing, and
Hmm.
it's a little tricky for me.
It is, it's funny you say that.
It is. It just
That
is.
is one of the things that it has always been tricky for me too. If I pay too close attention to my breath, it actually makes me a little anxious.
Yeah, it totally stresses me out. And the
And
moment somebody says breathe, I go into a panic
yeah.
mode. No, it's like please don't tell me to breathe, because
Right.
then I just totally stop. The other thing is there's like people have these crystal bowls, and it's part of my creativity thing.
Mm.
And I hope it's like I'm not poking fun of, but I'm like finding this funny thing. I do sense of humor is a little odd. But when I was in the kitchen one time, I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm like baking something, and all of a sudden I tapped on the bowl. I'm like, oh my gosh, that felt so good to tap on that. So the sound, and then I had my resonating bowls, and there was 3 tones.
Oh, I
Okay,
love it.
and that's so whether it's the 3 tones or the three you know sizes of brushes, the idea of like, here's this problem, let's keep going down, let's take this big brush and let's keep going down the smaller problem until we end up with it, bye now you don't see it anyway, goodbye. So I can just, like, oh, and then people go through that actual experience of doing something with me. Right. And then it just makes it seem not so that they can't handle it. Okay.
Right.
So anybody have any questions?
We're getting all sorts of love in the chat.
Well, I don't see the love.
I know. You'll have to go back and
any questions that I can answer or make up some answers, because I'm a creative person.
Make up some answers. No, but does anybody have? I'm talking to my phone. Does anybody have questions?
I was like devices. I'm like, it's so nice to just put those aside and just the purity of.
Isn't it great? Yeah, well, you'll get to go back and you'll get to see all the love and our fellow people.
Fellas and fellows.
Yes, it's so wonderful. I will. Thank you. Yeah, for the people, I will put links to Marti's mandala workbooks. These are beautiful. These coloring workbooks that you have.
Well, that was just a gift that I wanted to give people, something that's coloring. Now, I do find that some of them are a little more complex, but that was something that I had available right at this point. My intention would be for people to actually do their own, because that's that process thing, rather than just filling it in, which is a doing, to actually create it yourself. So I've had activity. So I'll probably do another one. I had like the Moondala event. That had the moon celebration at midnight, because I like being up at night. Moondala. So then I would probably do a star dollar one where we'll use that theme and create our own to bring it a little closer to the spring and summer.
Yeah, okay. Yes, please. We did have one question. Tanya is asking what a typical session is like for you.
Okay, typical session. Once we get started, we usually meet ahead of time so I can see what their goals are. Okay, what the concerns are, and then from that, my mind just will automatically, instantly have some concept, whether it be line, shape, color, form, texture, something that I think will help in the healing process. And then, like, I had a student, a person who came in, and her first course was she wanted to share, her concept was non-objective. So I actually did a whole PowerPoint presentation based on what she was interested in, but then related it to some healing. But I researched some stuff and put the visuals up that guide her in her area that she wants to do in art, but how I can get her to think about her healing process. So I have to meet with people for usually 15 to 30 minutes to talk about what they want to accomplish. And then from that, I create programs each week at a time. I can come up with an entire program, but generally I do it week by week, because I'm responding to where they are and how I hear the next time. Okay. I have an entire program designed. It's already designed.
Right.
In writing and step by step, which I have, which it covers the elements, peace pledge and the line. And it uses, one of the things it works on is, let's see here. Well, my mindset, working through grief, changing our space with its, eliminating clutter. So I actually have things based on stuff like that, but it incorporates art. So it's that, but that's what I do, is I have to work with you one-on-one to design it for you, if you're not going to be in the group course.
Sure.
Okay? Because that's what it is. That's how I'm like, how did I keep somebody for 15 years?
Right.
I never ran out of anything. I never ran out of an idea. We just never did. It just, every week was a new concept based on what I knew they needed for the next week. And I usually had assignment books. I'm like, my teacher thing. I had like an art. It was like, instead of studying with, like, people understand studying private lessons for music. People understood that. I was kind of a forerunner in actually having private lessons in art. People say, well, really, you're supposed to do that in a big group. I'm like, no, it's one-on-one, like studying with a master.
Right.
That's what it was. An apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was more of an apprenticeship. And I'm going to work with you one-on-one and teach you these skills, and you're going to learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it is. So I have to meet with you. We work it out, and I listen to and try to find your pain points if you don't come out with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's through the art that I do that. But I always incorporate music and whatever it is. If, like some kid, if they're in sports, I can always include something about that. But we might draw sports, or we might get up and do
Right.
some movement. So I have no problem incorporating anything of your interest, because that's that
Yeah.
global thinking that creative people do. I'm trying to change your thought process
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
the process. That's
Love
all
it.
it is.
All right.
So thank you. Any other questions I can answer?
Yeah, let's see. I'm not seeing anything else coming up.
Okay.
Just some
Now
more,
ran away. She
some
says,
more
"Oh my gosh, that's
affirmations.
way too intense." They'll say, "That's way too intense."
No, no, they're loving it. Tina says unleashing creativity is incredibly healing and life affirming. So
And you
those
don't
words
have to
that you
feel that
use,
way. It's there
it
already. All
is
I'm doing is releasing what's already been there. That's
exactly.
all. So naturally we have these tendencies, and it's only because as we get a little older, around age 9, stuff gets snuffed down,
Yeah.
and then life happens, and then it gets stuffed down more. Um, but I am a little maybe older fashioned in some of my techniques because I'm of that age. But I can be pretty wild.
Yeah. I love it.
So you
I
have to
love
be
it.
open to that.
Yes.
Open to that I will take you in a journey of joy through
Oh, I love it.
pain, okay?
That's
So
beautiful.
thank you so much. Is there anything else I do? Because I'm thinking, because I that's my teacher. I mean, like I'm thinking my mind is calculating time, but I'm still being free with my thoughts. And
Yes, it's beautiful. Yeah, we are just a little past 5 o'clock, and
oops,
it's
okay,
okay that we
okay,
go long. We've had a wonderful conversation here. We've had a wonderful audience. I appreciate everybody watching. Let us know if you're watching the replay. When we get off the live stream here, I will put all those links in the comments. So
thank
come
you.
back and check those out.
I
And so
didn't want to be
Marty,
scripted. I wanted to be impromptu.
yes,
Okay.
yes, you did great. Oh, Tanya says wild women always have fun. We do have fun. All right, so we're going to say goodbye to everybody out there in Midwest Elevation. I know, but we'll be back next week for another conversation to raise the collective conscious, and we will continue these conversations. Again, Marti, thank you so much for being here. Hang out here on Zoom. We're going to stop the live stream.